Let's get started right away. This is obviously the group coaching call, and for the Masterclass Elite program. We do this twice a month or once every other week. This is an open line forum. If you have any questions, just type them into the box. If you want to get online, I can unmute you if your phone has the ability that you're right now talking on something that you can be heard, or and you'd like to have a conversation with me. That is available to you as well. And as I always put up this disclaimer, just because I don't want to have any problems, I tell you the only thing that I need to be concerned with as being an attorney in this capacity is making sure that people understand that I do not represent them. I'm only licensed in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. You need to have local representation in any of the deals that you do. I mean, my job here as your coach, mentor, consultant is to really help you through the whole multifamily transaction. And obviously I can handle legal work as well, but the fact is that I do not come at this from a legal perspective. I do come at it from a legal perspective, but I cannot represent clients. I just won't do it. It opens up too much of a liability for me. So if anybody has any questions, just go ahead and type it. I'm going to check the question box every once in a while. If nobody has any questions, that makes these calls a little bit shorter, but I still want to, this is a great opportunity for us to connect and to talk about things that we're doing and making sure that you're on track, and to keep the conversation going and to keep it alive. I tend to pick out a particular topic and we'll just focus on one particular niche of the multifamily business during this call. I mean, interrupt me at any time if you have a question. That's what we're here for. Let me just make sure, see what we've got for any questions out there. Beautiful. Nope, nothing yet. All right. So in the meantime, let me start by saying that the sideline conversation for today is going to be on property taxes. All right, this may sound like a dry subject. I think you're going to be blown away by what I show you here, and you're going to walk away with a great handle on what you need to do. And typically these topics come about because over the last couple of weeks, I may have had a conversation with an elite member. I may have had a conversation with one of my law firm clients regarding a particular aspect. In this particular case, it was property taxes, and I want to bring some things to your to make you aware of certain things, so that you don't find yourself in these problems. And here's what I'm talking about. This just happens to be an example. Okay, so what happened was this particular client sends me over a property package, and she wants to make an offer on this property. So on this particular property, I've actually scrubbed it down, I've sanitized it, so you do not know where this property is. I want to protect her. She's the one making the offer on it. But I want to bring to your attention what this broker did and how some brokers will play fast and loose with certain aspects of the financials. And in this particular case, we're going to hone in on the property taxes. So let's take a look at what this particular broker is showing us. Look at, he's got three columns here: 2013, then he's got T3 June 14 income annualized / 2013 expenses. I'll explain that all to you in just a moment. And then the third column, he's got a forecast FY1, fiscal year 1. Okay. 2013 is past. That is a historical number. That column represents what actually happened, probably what he had to put on his taxes. So that number you can't fool around with. It is what it is. So in 2013, he had a net operating income of $71,000. And the real estate taxes were $31,671, as you can see right down here. All right? Now look what he did in the next column. Getting ready to sell the property, he decides he's going to pick and choose which income categories and which expense categories he's going to show to you to justify the sales price that he's trying to get for his client. So what he does is he takes a T3, that's a trailing 3 months, ending on June 14. So he takes the last 3 months, he takes April, May, and June of 2014, and then he annualizes it. So he takes those 3 months and multiplies it by 4, and that's where you get this net rental income of $178,000. And what's really strange about this, really strange, I'm just noticing this now, is look at what happened. Well, obviously the other income, the other income, he didn't even bother going up. He should have just grabbed the 2013 other income category and stuck it in there. So his other income category is suffering this year. But the fact is that then he takes the 2013 expenses. That's why you see all of these numbers down here are all exactly the same. So he picks and chooses his income periods against his expense periods. If you think that's crazy, try taking your 1985 income and using it against your 2014 expenses and then telling the IRS that's all you made this year. See how long you can stay out of jail with that approach. With brokers, they do it all the time. Don't fall for that. When you see the guy's got a T3 for the last 3 months, hey, pal, why don't you give us a T3 or T6? We already know what 2013 is. Give us the income for the first 6 months of this year. And he doesn't do it. Now, take a look at forecast F fiscal year 1. All right? Drop your eye all the way down to the net operating income. Look at his $71,000 is actual. His $87,000 is what happens when you pick and choose your income levels. And then forecast fiscal year 1 is a skyrocketing net operating income of $97,000. So essentially in a 2-year spread, you've just increased the net operating income on this property by almost $26,000. $26,000. Now think about that for a second. That means in any world, in any income producing property world, that the value of the property has gone up, right? Take a look at what this guy decides to do for the real estate taxes. Next year, in his fiscal year 1 forecast, the property taxes have come down by $4,000. The NOI has gone up by 26, but the taxes go down by 4. How does that happen? What world does this guy live in? Why does he think that he can just start reducing these types of expenses on his forecasts? And the real matter is this particular property happens to be located up in the northern part of the country. And in the northern part of the country, it's based upon sales comps, and it's also based upon the income approach, the net operating income. So up in this particular state, they're not going to just reduce your taxes, especially if you're buying it at X number of dollars. They're probably going to go up on your taxes from a sales comp basis. But more importantly, from a net operating income standpoint, your value just went up by $26,000. Why would your taxes go down? Why does this broker think that he can get away with this type of presentation? And this is one of the things you need to think about. Now, when I was going through this with a client, this, I had to do a quick little simulation in my mind as to what state this was in, because it raises the issue of, is this state what we call a non-disclosure state? Now, for those of you that don't know what non-disclosure means, is that there are some states in the country where you do not have to disclose the value of what you bought the property for to the assessor's office. So the assessor doesn't know what you bought the property for. And therefore, he's going to base his valuation on the sales price that he knows. Let me give you an example. I'll tell you exactly what I'm talking about here. This is I found this on the internet. All you have to do is just type in non-disclosure states. And here's a list of those non-disclosure states. You got Idaho, Indiana, Kansas, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, New Mexico, North Dakota, South Dakota, Texas, Utah, and Wyoming. Now, what this means is if you are looking at property in any one of these states, you've got to know what the value of the property taxes will be when you own the property. If you don't do that analysis, your net operating income analysis is going to be way out of whack, and you're going to get caught. All right, so you've got to understand in those states how the property tax issues work. Now, let me show you exactly what I mean. Now, here's a list, a short list of the non-disclosure states. All you'd have to do is just type it into Google, and this will pop up. But one thing that didn't pop up, and this is something I found when I was doing another a search for a client a while back, is that these are the non-disclosure states. There happen to be some counties within disclosure states that are non-disclosure counties. So not only do you need to know how the state handles it, you've got to understand how does the county that you're buying the property in handle these types of things as well. All right, so that's another thing you just need to bring up to speed. I'm just checking for questions. Okay. All right, so there is the list of the non-disclosures. Now, what exactly does this mean? Let me show you what happens, all right? So just for yucks, I went on LoopNet, and I found a property in Dallas. And I got to tell you guys, I think I've been to this property before. I think this particular picture is standing on that deck. I think I've been there. I think I know exactly where this property is. It's actually, yeah, son of a gun. There's the clubhouse right there. I've been here. This is a really nice property. It's kind of down the end of a cul-de-sac, and it's wedged in with a whole bunch of other properties, but it's a really nice property. Okay, so here is Wyndham on the Creek, and they're asking $5.9 million. And here's the broker, Mike Wells, CCIM. I'm going to come back to that in just a moment. And the name of his company is Wells Asset Management. I'll tell you guys, I think I've dealt with him in the past. If you're looking in Texas and you're looking in the Dallas area and you're not looking at his properties, this guy does a really good job. So I would definitely put him on your list of properties to look for. So Wyndham on the Creek, $5.9 million. You know what I did next? I went on the assessor's office. And this is what you need to do when you're looking at properties. You've actually got to pick up the phone and speak directly to the assessor. Find out how they calculate their properties. Look at what happens when we look at the website for the assessor's office in Dallas County. They've got a market value of $2.8 million. Wait a minute. 5.9, 2.8. So if you're looking at the financials on Wyndham and you look at the tax line and see what they paid last year in taxes, it's going to be based upon a $2.8 million valuation. But if you buy the property for 5.9, you've got to make sure the tax number matches the 5.9 valuation. Now, when you do that and you go to the broker and you show them, hey, man, I can't get to your numbers. I mean, look at what the taxes are. And the broker says, oh, no. You don't have to worry about that. This is a non-disclosure state. This assessor is never going to know you paid 5.9 for it. And you say, oh, really? So you think it's going to be set at 2.8? And the broker's like, yeah, don't worry about it. It's going to be set at 2.8. Let me tell you something, folks. Who do you think reads LoopNet? The assessor. He's going to see that this Wyndham on the Creek is listed at 5.9, and he's going to look at his market valuations at 2.8. He's like, heck, I'm going up in my valuation. And he can, and he should. And so there, all of a sudden, you've got 2.8, goes from 2.8 up to 5.9. And what happens to your numbers? It could kill the deal. Could absolutely kill the deal. Could wipe out your profit if you miscalculated that number. So what do? Here is the actual financials as presented by the broker for this property. Now remember, guys, this Mike Wells, he's a CCIM. And if you've come to my classes and you've heard me talk about CCIMs, I'm telling you, those guys know their stuff. And they're very, very professional. And they do things right. They do their analysis correctly. And sure enough, when I looked at these numbers, Mike Wells did not sell himself short. He did this analysis correctly. Take a look at what he did. Last year, under the current income, the taxes were $78,000. Under the pro forma, he went up to $139,000 in tax and real estate taxes. That's absolutely correct. That's what should happen. And look at then down here, he actually gives a whole entire valuation and justification as to why he is coming up with that number. And so as you can see, he did a $61,000 adjustment just to make sure that the numbers were accurate, because that is exactly what would happen. Now remember, it's a non-disclosure state. The assessor may not ever know that you paid 5.9 for this property. He may only look at it and say, oh, we're going to keep it at the 2.8 valuation. And you make out like a bandit. But if he doesn't do that and you go up to the 5.9, you could lose your shirt. All right, so this particular broker, remember the first broker we looked at, he actually went down on the taxes when the property sold, even though the NOI went up. And here, Mike Wells is doing it the right way. He's bringing the actual taxes up to where it should be when you buy the property, and then seeing how the numbers look. Now, let me give you a little other tip here, guys. It's 100% valuation. That means that the assessed value is going to be on the sales price of the property. Look what Mike Wells did over here. He bases his real estate tax analysis on 85% of the purchase price, or $5 million. What do you think your offer should be? 5.9 or 5? Because I think Mike kind of tipped his hand a little bit to show, hey, this property is really worth $5 million. So that's another little thing that you need to take into consideration when you're looking at these numbers. So that is, here it is right here. This is the Wyndham on the Creek. I wanted to give you, show you Mike Wells' number and his web page and everything. He's definitely a guy that you want to take a look at. He does a very good job, and I think that's it for the for this discussion on property taxes, because what I was trying to do was I was trying to find another example in Texas, and I could not do it. Another example in Texas of a broker that did it absolutely incorrectly. So you could see the two different ways that the brokers can analyze this. You need to do it like Mike Wells does. He does it the right way, and you cannot do it based upon what that first broker did. Because you will lose every day of the week. You will. I'm telling you, folks. I've seen it happen over and over and over again. All right, I have a question. Is it harder to get property taxes reduced if each unit of an apartment complex is a condo or a townhouse versus apartments, i.e., you're buying a lot of individual units versus one property with many units? Okay, let me say that again. I kind of read it fast. I already know the answer because this actually happened on one of my properties. Is it harder to get property taxes reduced if each unit of an apartment complex is a condo or townhouse versus apartments? For example, you're buying a lot of individual units versus one property with many units. Okay, here's what happened to me. I bought 24 units. They were all assessed as condos and had been assessed as condos since they were built in 1986. They have, with the exception of one unit that they sold and then they bought it back, they have always been run as multifamily units. And so for the last 20 some odd years, they were being run as apartments, but they were assessed as condos. And so I walked into the assessor's office and said, hey, listen, you guys got these 24 all assessed as condos. They're really 3 buildings with 8 units in them as multifamily. The rest of the complex are all multifamily. How much money am I going to save if we can get this thing switched over to multi? And he said, you're going to save about $4,000 a year. I said, okay, what do I have to do? He said, nothing. I'll take care of it for you right now. I said, great. He went and changed the assessment, and my taxes came right down. It was that easy. I don't know if it had to do with the fact that I had a track record of almost 30 years of these or 20 years of these properties being run as apartments, as opposed to what you might be talking about, where you've got individual lots. It was a fractured condo development, and there's no history behind them. But that's going to be a little bit different. Here's the thing: is if you find yourself in that situation, figure out how much money you can save, and then determine if it's worth the fight. If it's worth the fight, there are attorneys that they will go in there and represent you in front of the Board of Assessors to get those numbers down. And if it doesn't work there, you just file an appeal to the state level and see what the story is there. Okay, now the next question is, what about insurance? Is flood or hazard insurance cheaper as apartments versus condos? Okay, I will speak only to the hazard insurance as it relates to the condos, and the answer is no. What we did is we bought a blanket policy for all. It was 128 units. It was 24 condos. We got one policy for the whole place, and when we switched over from a condo to an apartment, it didn't change our insurance rates whatsoever. Now, flood insurance is a different animal, and try to get out of buying flood insurance as best you possibly can. And I don't mean illegally, in an illegal manner. What I mean is being wise about how flood insurance has become a requirement. If your property is in just barely on the edge of the 100-year floodplain, sometimes you might be able to file what's called a LOMA, an LOMA, a letter of map amendment, where you get an engineer to come in there and say, hey, you just need to change the path of this little line on the 100-year map just a little bit and keep our property out of it and save all that money on the flood insurance. Flood insurance has become an absolute scam. Another one of the government scams that's out there. It's killing some properties. It's killing a lot of the deals in Texas. I'm not in Texas, but in Florida. I live on the coast here in Massachusetts, and you should see these poor homeowners who have they're getting absolutely railroaded by these flood insurance plans. So you have to check out if the property is going to be in the required flood insurance, and don't take it at the owner's don't take the owner's word for it. You've got to do your own assessment, because here's what's happening is if the bank hasn't requested it, then the owner doesn't own it. It's typically when the bank comes in and says, we want flood insurance, that you got to buy the flood insurance. Well, if the bank has never come in and told the seller that he needs to buy flood insurance, he's not buying flood insurance. Doesn't mean that the next lender Or if your loan gets sold, it doesn't mean that the next lender after that one is going to come back and tell you you need to buy flood insurance. So just be very wise about where your property is located. If you see a little creek down the hill, that could do you in. So make sure you understand when you're doing your due diligence, look around for water and ask the tough questions about flood insurance. So that is it right now I got for the questions. If anybody else has any questions, we've got a good group of people on the line. There are a lot of people on the line right now. Yeah, if anybody has any other questions. But in the meantime, I'm not going to take up time for you. If you, let me think here. As usual, with any questions, you can send them on over to info@multifamilyinvestingacademy.com. I've been getting some great questions. I've been saving them, and the expert Q&A video that you get once a month, I've just been saving those up. And when I first started this masterclass program, I maybe recorded one or two questions. You're going to start to see a lot of questions being asked and answered on those expert Q&A. It's going to be like, for those of you that are not from the Massachusetts area, it's going to be like the Channel 38 Ask the General Manager show. But I'm getting all those questions answered and on video and in the archives, so you can always go back and see what those questions are. If you have any questions and you want me to answer them on the expert Q&A, send them on over. But the whole idea here, folks, is to help me get you across the finish line any way I can. So if you need me for anything, just let me know. Shoot me an email. That's what I'm here for. So, all right, this is going to be actually it's going to be about a half-an-hour call. Unless anybody has any other questions, I will end it here, and I will talk to you all in 2 weeks. Or if you've got anything in the meantime, any questions, if you want me to help you with any particular property packages, just send them on over, and I look forward to chatting with you and getting to know you all better. So until next time, have a great couple of weeks. Enjoy the rest of the summer. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.